We have got volunteers in these emergency services, volunteers in education, volunteers everywhere else, when we haven't even got any volunteers in Parliament.
The question is, we've got volunteers in all parts of our society, but we haven't got any volunteers in Parliament. I don't know if that's quite right. There's about 1,100 volunteers trying to get elected.
What I'm saying is, for a fire service, totally volunteers down here.
Oh, yes, yeah.
You know, and why? When you look back in the 80s, 70s and 80s, we didn't have volunteers in education, or very little. We didn't have volunteers as what it was.
No, I got the question. Now you're putting up an argument. Well, I got the question, clear as daylight. Look, sir, we've always had a twin fire service in this country, both professionals and volunteers. Now, you recall that in the last 25 years we've had 18 reviews of the fire service. 18! Unbelievable. And now they're going to force them all together. One party opposes that. That's Party New Zealand First. We do not think that this is going to work. And we've seen it tried elsewhere. But we've always had a volunteer component in our fire service, and in Darwin, I know, amongst these four brothers, the Murdoch boys, 145 years service. Just for them. All up. So if you ask me for greater assistance from central government for the fire service, that is my party's commitment. In the same way, for example, we think it is wrong that the rescue helicopter service is paid for as a charity. Rescue helicopter service should be critically funded by the DHB because it's about people's lives and safety. Yes, yes, sir. The question up the back from the Taumarunui here is, why do we want to abolish the Maori seats and the Maori Party? Well, you had a bit there. I didn't say I'm going to abolish the Maori Party. They're successfully abolishing themselves. Come on, you know they are. And let me tell you why. Let me tell you why they did it. Because what's happened in Maori politics, and I go back to the great days of the 1800s, and to people like Ngata, Pomare and Buck, when no one ever doubted the wisdom of these people. And today I see Maori in Parliament who are the equal of anybody else. They don't need the Maori seats in that context. They are prepared to be equal with anybody else. And as I say, as by way of analogy, whenever did you ever hear Buck Shelford say, "Don't tackle me too hard because I'm a Maori"? I want the Maori seats to be reflected on in a referendum, and I'll tell you why. Because in the last 25 years, I've seen the basic needs and causes of Maori totally forgotten by the political system. I'll give you an example. In the last 25 years, Maori home ownership has declined by a massive 38%. How could that possibly happen if you've got not 4 Maori seats but now 7? And my thesis is that a whole lot of people have got caught up in the Waitangi industry. From the sociology department of Auckland University, they're all talking the same language. They're all talking about the principles of treaty Waitangi. And I asked them, tell me what those principles are. And they can't. But if I go to the Taumarunui hospital, under its modus operandi and its statement of intent, it's got a treaty of Waitangi section. And if I go and ask anybody at the Taumarunui hospital, you explain to me what these principles are, not one person can. But don't be surprised, because when I go to Victoria University and Auckland University to the Maori studies, I ask the professor, you tell me, this is Margaret Mutu now, your cousin, I tell her, you tell me what these principles are, Margaret, and she can't either. Now my point is, whilst this is gathering, whilst that's going on, the needs of Maori in health, education, first world jobs are falling by the wayside. And if anybody's got I want to argue about that, you tell me how it is that we've allowed hundreds and hundreds of thousands to come into this country while Maori stay at the bottom of the heap. I'm real about what I believe. I've watched it for a long, long time. I'm not anti the Maori seats in that context. I just think they're not doing their job anymore. And Kelvin Davis just proved my point yesterday. He got made deputy of the Labour Party in 2017. What a long time that took. I know something about it in the sense that for 138 years, only 4 Maori ever got into a general seat. One was Carroll way back in the turn of the century, the 1900s. The next two were Rex Austin from Awarua and Ben Couch from Wairarapa and myself from Hunua way back in 78. 4 in 138 years. I say the world's changed and MMP's changed it. Now we've got a stack of people who've got a Maori in their background. New Zealand First is a good example of it. So why, when the Electoral Commission said that, in time MMP would do away with the need for the Maori seats, are we saying, oh yeah, but these Maori here are better than these Maori over there? Well, it's not true. It's not true at all. And I think for that reason, why don't we put it to the people of this country? And one last thing. If you look at who's qualified to be a Maori elector, then the majority of those people are not on the Maori roll. They're on the general roll. But, you know, I'm happy to ask the people. What I can be certain of, what I can be really certain of, look, I can recall there was a guy in Parliament, and if you go and check his Hansard, he barely ever made a speech. I can say it now because he's dead, but he was a relation of mine, Brown Revity, from Tauranga. One year he made this speech. He said, point of order, Mr. Speaker, can somebody open the windows? It's seriously hot here. Now, I'm not knocking Brown. He was a lovely guy, but he's never been in Parliament. Next question, yes. Down the back, there's a lady there with the glasses behind you. That lady there, that's one, yes.
I want to ask you a couple of health questions. You said that, you know, we were promised that everybody would be within an hour, oh thank you, an hour of a secondary health service, a hospital, which we know simply is not true. 2 things that would help this community. One is cross-boundary flows, because that is what killed a lot of our health service, was the introduction of cross-boundary flows. The other thing is an area like this for transport. Every time we send somebody from our rest home to Hamilton for treatment in an ambulance, it costs them $1,000 each way. That's the cost, to send elderly people to a secondary hospital from a rest home. If they are transferred from the hospital, then it doesn't cost. But if somebody in our community has to access that service and can't go in a van or needs a wheelchair and can't do that, $1,000 each way. Transport. What will you do to address that issue? What will you do to make our health services easier to access?
Well, what's happening at the moment is you get the costings done by the DHB, and there's no regard to geography or time. In fact, they don't even factor that in. So if you've got a physiotherapist, for example, who's got an 8-hour day, they don't factor in that that physiotherapist could be travelling 3 of those 8 hours. So they don't factor in the workload at all. And then they say, you're getting the same service. No, you're not. We intend to factor in the geographic spread and the travelling time to see that it's fair. But what we do want, we want to return the specialisation into provincial hospitals that used to be there. And we're going to do it by ensuring that if you're a medical graduate from our universities in medicine as doctors and other specialists, if you go to the provinces or the regions where there aren't those specialists, we'll write your student loan off. We're going to make it worth your while. But you've got to come in and live here for 5 years. But if you do that, we'll write your student loan off. And we reckon it'll work. It seriously it will be enormously attractive to places like Taumarunui, the West Coast, and indeed up in the north. Yes, sir.
Welcome, Mr. Peters. I want to ask a question because everybody in the room here knows we've got 2 major parties, the Labour Party and the National Party. We go to make a vote for New Zealand First, we're thinking to ourselves, we want Winston Peters to be the Prime Minister of the country, that's why I'm voting for New Zealand First, but I know he's not going to be the Prime Minister unless he can get coalition with National Labour and get in there and put his name forward, because I'm sure you could beat Bill English for the job as far as the National Party goes. But where I get disappointed is that you're voting and telling us what you can do, what you can't do. When you get into the caucus meetings and you push for what you really want, they just look at you and say, well, you're going to do what we want, because we are the government. And the government has got for pensioners, for starters, down around $10 an hour, which is about $3 or $4 under the minimum wage. That's why most old people are still working. They're trying to live on less than what the minimum wage is. In 2016 or 17, we've got a minimum wage of less than $16 an hour. It's a bloody disgrace. And the pensioners around here are on about $11 an hour clear tax. You can't live on $11 an hour unless you're still working or you've got a big bank book. So what are you going to get into? When you get in there, we tell these people that they're living in a dream world, those that have got it all and those that haven't, and you talk about poverty in Whangarei. Well, the people in Whangarei are the same as the rest of the country. They can't live on what we're not getting. So it's just too much to bear for people, and that's why we've got the suicide rates and stuff we've got. Can you get into power, become the Prime Minister and change the country? Yes, please.
Can I tell you that the reason why Andrew Little stepped down from the Labour Party yesterday was the fact that we were on the rise as a party. I believe that rise is going to go on, and they were dead scared that not they, but we were going to come in second. And that is still our objective. When that happens, sir, anything's possible. But I'm not going into negotiations without knowing what cards I've got, and without discussing with my colleagues in the board of New Zealand First. We're putting everything into doing as well as we can in this campaign, and so far so good. So they, in a fit of panic, changed their leadership yesterday. There'll be a blip for a couple of weeks, and we're back on track again. You watch. We'll get the bus out and they'll blast around this country and get people out there to vote for us in this campaign, because people want to change. Now, sir, on the question of superannuation, remember what the Labour Party did, the National Party did? They took super down to 60% of the net average weekly wage. When I changed, I didn't put it back to 65, I put it back to 66 and put it in law, and then gave the gold card. And I've got an addition of the gold card coming out in this campaign, which will astonish some of you, because it's never been pushed properly. It's never had the business concessions it should have had. And when you see the new shape of the gold card, you'll realise that your money will go a whole lot further this time round. It's 10 years old now, and it's 10 years, it's long since the thing was upgraded, which I intend to announce in this campaign. Yes, sir.
Rates.
Rates.
Rates. Would you be prepared to set rates at a maximum of 1% of the rateable value of a property? Because at the moment I'm paying 5% of the rateable value. Sorry. At the moment I'm paying 5 to 6% of the rateable value of my property here in Taumarunui. Meanwhile, up in Auckland they're paying 0.25%. I think if we set the rates at 1%, at least you've got some way of actually knowing how much you're going to have to pay.
Look, the question is, are we prepared to set rates at 1% of the value of the property? Because currently the question is complaining about paying 5%. And probably all around this country the most common thing is complaints about rate increases which are not in line with inflation. No bearing at all with inflation in many cases. So if you ask me for something that we've never said we're going to do, what we did say we're going to do was we were going to give you increase the concession of people who are retired on the question of rates. I'm prepared to look at that, but we haven't made a policy on it. I don't want to make a policy on the hoof, just like that. I'll think about it, seriously. At the very back there, that gentleman, yes sir. You shout out, I'll repeat it.
Nuclear-free New Zealand, isn't it about anti-nuclear on proliferation of nuclear weapons? So how come we find Lockheed Martin, the US military industrial complex, which is the biggest manufacturer of nuclear weapons on the planet, running a military at Wairuru?
Are you asking about Lockheed Martin running a military in Wairuru? Sir, I don't know that. If you can send me some information, I'll be very interested to know. The only contact I had with Lockheed Martin was some while ago, when you remember Aviation New Zealand had 3 directors who got into consultation with Lockheed Martin with the objective that they were going to sell themselves, the taxpayer in operation that is, to Lockheed Martin. I don't remember that, but I'm talking about 15 years ago. And I got in wind of it and out of the whole operation and out of the 3 directors involved who were trying to flog themselves off. And they were going to be directors on the new international ownership body of Aviation New Zealand. If you send me some information, I'll look at it, but I don't know that. Yes, sir? That gentleman, yes, sir.
Mrs. Peters, could you tell us the approximate difference between the Ruapehu GDP that we produce compared with what we get back?
I can't tell you what the approximate GDP of Ruapehu is. All I know from good authority is that they're paying, if that mountain was down in Queenstown and on Queenstown's costing, they'd be paying $1 million less. The chairlift operation itself. And I suspect a whole lot of people are in the same boat. But I can't give that GDP. It's a bit of a specialist question, that is. And I don't have the information on me. At the very back, the gentleman with the glasses. Yes, sir.
Mr. Peters, it's a quick question I've been wanting to ask, and I think it will affect everybody here. Well, I hope it will in the long run. In your opinion, if everybody here put a vote for the New Zealand First candidate, or do you want us to put a vote for the list?
To tell you the truth, sir, I want you to put 2 votes. One for Rangitigi and one for New Zealand. The same tick for New Zealand First. But if you
If you're asking for too much, I think, which would you prefer?
Well, clearly I prefer your party vote. Honestly, I prefer your party vote, yeah. I know I'll have us die hard, but boy, you guys are targets for punishment. Yes, sir.
Just a little thing about the Lions Company. I've been to a couple of the meetings there with the independent reviewer who's sitting on the board now, in the Trojan Horse, and a lot of the people there were very worried. They were stressed about this peak. They might have made one anomaly one night, the coldest night in August, and that's what they pay for the rest of the year. If they go away in the summer for 6 weeks and turn off their power, it doesn't mean a thing. It's what they use in the highest period of the deepest of winter. But they're tracking you with these smart meters, and they're running people's lives. People are nervous. I've seen them. They're all stressed. And what I'm just saying is, I don't think that's right at all. But what I do want to say is, they're tracking you for not only what you use, but what you don't use. And I got a log burner fire, and I disattached my electric hot water. Up to 15-20% of your power is in the electric hot water. Once I did that, I got a log burner efficiently, put the logs in, heat up the water, and we get the hot water. I thought that would save us power, but no. I got a letter from the Lions Company telling me, they tracked me, that I'm on a 100% non-control because they can't ripple control my electric hot water, and they put my fee $240 a year on top of what I already pay for something that doesn't exist.
Look, so let me answer the question. You're talking about the power pricing mechanism down here. This power pricing mechanism is the ugly face of irresponsible capitalism. And make no bones about it. It is the ugly face of irresponsible capitalism, dealing in deceit and lies. So they get you to peak time, say, great, that's you for 365 days. Just like that. And then they say, well, people conserve power. No, they don't. That's the last thing they want. They just want to rip you off and make as much as they possibly can. Worst thing of all, of course, they go to a totally lame, useless Commerce Commission, and no one's bringing them into line. They've been there countless times. So the first thing we should do is get rid of the damn Commerce Commission. Or put some steel on them. Get people to a job. They're like the Overseas Investment Office. The Overseas Investment Office gets all these applications for foreigners to buy New Zealand land, and they sit there with the rubber stamp and stamp the whole lot. Just like that. So the first thing I'll do is, don't try and change the system. Get rid of them. Sack them. Make them, no, I'm not going to shoot them. But you know, look, why would you try and negotiate with people like that? They don't even understand what the national interest is. When it comes to those companies, they're not interested in being honest at all. So the first thing is you've got to go along with them and say, the people have spoken and your days of doing what you're doing are over. You've got to make it plain as daylight.
But just,
No, it's done.
but just regarding the legality of them charging $240 a year extra on top of because of something that doesn't exist. I mean, I don't have the electric to dribble.
I know what you're saying, sir, but look, I mean, I'm pretty primitive myself, but I decided I'm going to save some power as well. So I shoved the electric heater on, just the water heater on, 2 hours, and twice a day. For 20 hours, it's not going. And I saw a dramatic change in the power costs. But that's not the point. A whole lot of people are being pushed to all sorts of alternative things, including what you've done. You've got a you've got a wetback on your stove, and that's a big help down these sorts of places. But all over the country, it's a big help now. Frankly, if I could get out of the power company's clutches, I personally would get out of it as fast as I can. But you can't. So what I'd rather do, sir, is say that the reforms of Bradford were a total abuse of the phrase reforms, and put the darn thing back together again on a national grid. That's what I want to do. Yes, madam.
One thing I'd like you to look at, please, is the actual makeup of all the lines companies in New Zealand. There are 29 lines companies in New Zealand. All of them are looking at our lines company and would like to charge the same way. You look at Australia, they've got 4 lines companies in the whole of Australia. We don't need 29 line companies. We need maybe one up north, one in the middle, and one for the South Island that run efficiently. That would make a huge difference to how they can charge, and it would save us all so much anguish.
In the speech today, you'll see I'm talking about forced amalgamation. That's got to happen. 29 power line companies, it is ridiculous for New Zealand. But then again, we've got 21 district health boards, haven't we? That's ridiculous as well. How did that start? Well, it started again under this capitalist, neo-liberal capitalist experiment, when they started dealing with the health changes under a guy called Simon Upton. Remember him? Simon Upton, who decided to turn the whole health system upside down, and we'd stop calling people in hospital patients, we'd call them clients. Right? And he started changing the name of hospitals. So no longer the Wanganui Hospital, where my mother trained to be a nurse, no, it was called Good Health Wanganui. Every damn neoliberal right-wing expression designed around what to do, to start charging you for health service, which up till then you thought was part of being a good taxpayer and responsible state. Citizens' role. And I agree with you. We don't need 21 district health boards either. And whilst I'm at it, it's like iwi radio. We've got more Maori radio than all of Melbourne, Sydney, and Brisbane. And what does that mean? Well, it means a dilution of talent. Our resources strung out too wide. We